How's that?
How's it going, Deklon? You okay?
Good. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. Yeah, I just watched your film again, and yeah, it's pretty rocking, pretty rocking. So, if you could do me a little favor, you can introduce yourself to the viewers.
Sure. My name is Deklon Roberts. I'm here from Toronto, Canada. And what's going on, everybody?
I really appreciate. I know it's a little bit short notice when I emailed you because we're trying to schedule in people as often as possible, and now we've got it going on for almost 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We had a little cancellation for this slot, so it was perfect for yourself.
Well, you know what? Before we start, would you mind if I do something, Alexander?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
All right. Because I want to commend everyone who's joined into the isolation. So I want to create a toast for everybody, Alexander.
Yeah.
We have a little toast right here.
I've only got water, sadly, in a Coke.
Well, listen, this is for everyone who's participating. I want to wish you guys nothing but the best, and best of luck to you guys. And for everyone who's dealing with this pandemic, I want to wish you and your families nothing but safe and healthy.
Absolutely. Cheers. That's a really nice touch, man.
Hey, Alexander, you know this has got to be for the people. I don't drink this early, buddy. Don't tell my mom.
Absolutely, yeah. And with your sentiments, it just makes me think about how awful some of these big situations are at the moment and how they kind of simmer to the top, and it's just disgusting what's going on in certain parts of the world, you know?
Oh man, but you know, you have to also look at it from this perspective, Alexander. Like it sparks conversations.
Absolutely, yeah. It gets everyone talking about it, and it's constant, and you feel like it just has to change. Things have to change.
Well, you know, it changes with awareness, and if we are talking about the rioting, you know, slavery ended 400 years ago when a group of white people joined forces with the black people and said, "This isn't right."
Yeah.
And if you look at everything that's happening in the streets, I'm seeing protests of every culture, every race, every nationality standing for what's right. So there, in all this ugliness, there is some beautiful situations. There was this story of this Detroit officer in Detroit, Michigan, and he was standing with all of his team, and he just took off his shield. He threw down his baton.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
He said, "I am tired. I want to be with you guys. I want to turn this protest into a parade." Yeah. That to me is got to be on the news everywhere because that's what we need.
Absolutely. Like this is one of the reasons we started the festival. We need to turn at least a small amount of positivity out of anything that's kind of awful. And what that cop did was he's trying to demonstrate that we wanted to think it's a select few that are doing this. And when you see the video of what happened to George Floyd, and it was beyond most police officers what they would even think about doing, and especially, this is not an excuse, but especially when you're on camera doing it.
Yeah, just no regard.
Do you know what? There's a crazy moment. It obviously it's a television show, but in Orange Is the New Black, it's got a really nice center of genuine feeling. Obviously, it's a comedy as well, but there's an exact situation where one of the prisoners in the show is being knelt on the neck, and she's saying exactly the same thing. And it was a pivotal moment in the show. And obviously, that's just a TV show, and that hit people in a small way, you know, in a fictional way. But when something like this is seen, and it's so blatant, how I feel about it is, it's as though with certain aspects of American culture, it's not American culture, but the kind of the spearhead of Agent Orange and all of that. It's almost as though they've got okay to do certain things, and it just pickles your brain that these things still happen.
And we've come so far. You know, it's funny. Somebody said something yesterday. They actually think racism is worse today than it was many, many years ago. Because many years ago, you just jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Now we have consciousness. We have education. Like, what's the excuse for this today?
Yeah, it's like doing it by stealth as well, because you can influence children on their phone like this. In their room. I was talking to a lecturer at the university I do some work for, and they were saying that their kids, they can't parent exactly what they're seeing online all the time. it's extremely difficult. So just imagine the levels that people go to spread awful information and that, and hate. So it's crazy, man. It's
What
absolutely
what I will say though is, in regards to the person that said you can't parent, I think we have to find a way to parent that because no child is born racist.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're taught division,
exactly.
whatever form it is, but it's our responsibility to sit down and have those really tough conversations to raise the awareness for our children.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of in a roundabout way. That's why I wanted to kind of highlight your film, especially because it was really just a really strong message in your film about supporting the workers and everyone in this current time. And that comes across really well in your performance as well. I think you kind of did a great job with that.
Well, so honestly, Alexander, I want to thank you. Like I'm an actor here in Toronto. I never wrote anything. I never directed anything. I've never shot anything. And this festival has allowed me and given me the opportunity to experience and try new things.
You've never shot anything?
Never.
This looks like a seasoned filmmaker. That's what.
No, I am not seasoned at all, my friend. No.
Wow, that's impressive. And I'm going to ask you a few very small technical questions later on as well. But when did you first come up with the idea, and how long was that process to write the script and to kind of flesh it out before you shot it?
So out here in Toronto, Canada, I don't know if we're doing this thing where around 7:00, everyone's out on the street with their pots and pans banging.
They're doing the same thing for the NHS.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, this is so beautiful. What does it really do? It shows our appreciation for them. But I'm like, my next door neighbor at my apartment, Yen, I actually wish she was here. She actually is a nurse.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her and I'm like, what goes through your head before you're leaving home? And then I was like, oh, this is the side of the story we need to educate the world on. Yeah, and that's what was the premises of the short film. And I only asked her 5 questions. What do you think about before you leave? What's your biggest concern? How does your family and friends treat you when you are around them? What's it like when you see people that are dying? And how do you handle your own stress and your emotions? I asked her those 5 questions, and she just gave me simple answers. And from that, I wrote the script based off of those questions.
Yeah, and I think you did yourself. I think you create a really nice short film, and this is the kind of content that I've spoken to a lot of actors about. That obviously you audition so much, and what's the best way to kind of put yourself out there? It's not just obviously auditioning; it's creating your own work. And just out of slight curiosity, what did you shoot this on?
I just shot it on a Canon camera.
Was it just a basic Canon camera?
You want me to grab it for you?
Yeah, please.
Let me grab it for you. Hold on. Yeah. So I got my basic tripod from Walmart.
Yeah.
And I got my little Canon Rebel T3-1i. And again, I am not no specialist with this stuff. I just went on YouTube, tried to teach myself, asked some questions, and yeah.
The reason I ask you for that because we try and find out to inform other filmmakers and actors and that, what's the best practice, what are the options you can get camera gear wise, because there's so many things. So it's good to see other people involved in the festival showing us their gear and telling us about their technique. But the reason I asked you to show me the camera, because when the shots of you just before you leave the apartment to go to work, I'm like, that looks like a red camera or something. It looks like there's large parts of that remind me like super high production. Honestly, I think it's obviously if you've got like diffused light or nice light as well, that's kind of obviously important because you've seen it based on some of your credits. You know, you've been on some massive shows as well. That the production values are, you can see it. You know, the lights, the camera gear, everything. And obviously, the biggest thing in yours is the story and the storytelling, and that's key to any film. But yeah, that's a real surprise because it looks fantastic.
You know, I and thank you for that. You know, I've been blessed to be on a lot of shows. And I remember I had a conversation with Kiefer Sutherland on Designated Survivor.
Yeah.
Phenomenal guy, phenomenal actor. And I remember he told me, he's like, Declan, the lighting guys are the MVPs on all sets.
Yeah.
He's like, you can have the greatest scene, but if it's lit bad, it doesn't mean nothing. Like, really? And this is when I started learning more about that. So when I was shooting this, I was really trying to be cognizant of lighting.
Yeah, absolutely. The shot of you especially and the back and forth, you sold it. You can see kind of experience with acting, and I was really impressed that you shot it on that camera because you've made that, you've elevated that. You can make, I'm not saying that you have to have the highest camera. You can have an iPhone and then shoot it the right way. You'll look like you've got a 20 grand camera, you know? So it's props to you for shooting on that. And how long did it kind of take to shoot and edit, and what was the kind of process like?
So the story, it came to me quickly because I knew I wanted to do something based off of COVID, but I wanted to do something from a perspective that people don't think about, right? So that came to me pretty quickly. To shoot, I would say my challenge was, I said, okay, I'm going to do a story. I can't leave my condo. It's only being in the condo, and I have to use whatever I have in my condo. Well, from all my self-tape auditions, I have a nurse's outfit. I have army fatigue. I have a doctor's coat. So I was like, okay, so I got some pieces here. I'm going to use a nurse's outfit because I based it off of my next door neighbor. To shoot, I would say it took me roughly about 8 hours.
Yeah. Because
it was just, I was experimenting, trying, what worked, what didn't work, lighting. Run time, I would say, like talking back and forth, was 3 hours. And so the female in the film is actually my wife, who has zero acting experience.
Yeah.
But I was not taking one of my acting friends from outside because I need to respect social distancing. COVID is still a pandemic, and I want to use someone inside of the house. Her only acting experience is her reading from my self-tapes.
Yeah.
So when she did the end where she was very emotional, I was like, I kind of walked her through it. Like, what was it be like if I die today and you'll never see me again? That was real emotion from both of us.
Is this the first time you've directed any kind of short as well?
1,000%. I've never.
Wow.
I only just look at people and look at what people do. And I think my gift was I was on set. And I was in LA and I was meeting with casting directors out in December. And I met with one great casting director. And he said to me, he's like, well, Declan, you have a ton of stuff on your resume. What else do you got? I'm like, well, nothing. I want to be an actor. He's like, so you don't have a diverse portfolio? He's like, you need more than just credits. And then it hit me. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So when this opportunity came up, I just put myself out there. And I thank you for that, Alexander, because without this creation, for many of us, we wouldn't be able to showcase this ability that I'm sure some other people aren't actors, but they're directors. Some other people are directors and they aren't actors. So we've all been able to showcase, and some people aren't storytellers. So we've all been able to showcase a part of us.
No, absolutely. And you've really, your acting experience and skills, that's you obviously show strength in that. When everyone sees your film, they'll absolutely see that. And I think you'll go from strength to strength now, because is this giving you a bit of impetus going forward? And obviously there'll be a long drawn out period of getting past this pandemic, but do you see yourself shooting a lot more in the future?
Yeah, like for me, like even when I watch Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, I love storytelling. Like I'm looking at things with a different eye. I'm like, oh, if I was to do this, I would create this or I would do this. And there's things I've noticed that I don't think I paid much attention to before. Like one thing in The Last Dance that I loved was when the director Jason took his laptop and he gave it to Phil Jackson to listen to what Michael Jordan said in real time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I've never seen that done in a documentary. So like little things, my eye has become more critical, and I believe like my next story, as you've seen, was my wife is white and I'm fully black, and what an interesting story to have a conversation during this time
Absolutely, absolutely.
because we don't have kids, Alexander,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, we had to have some difficult conversations because there is a reality that our kids might get pulled over if they're driving nice cars.
Yeah.
She's never experienced anything like this where I have. So we had some very interesting conversations based off of that.
Yeah, you could have that around a dinner table scene, something really positive. Then you can, yeah, that story can go many ways. It can be really genuine. I think once you see that in so many good performances and in directing, in writing, is when you put an element of yourself or self in it, it makes it so much stronger. It elevates it. You know, like with stand-up comedians, all sorts of creativity. When you put an element of yourself in it, it really just takes it to that level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think
And I think sometimes, go ahead.
if I made a if I made a short film about myself, includes it, there'd be anxiety, right? Yeah.
I'd like to know more about you, though, Alexander. Like you're a little bit. I purposely did not study anything about you.
Oh, that's
And look you up because I want to know from your firsthand, from your mouth, what's your experience in film? What have you done? I would love to know this.
So I'll tell you about a missed opportunity 19 years ago. A very good friend of mine, and we were kind of a bit of a thing. And I was working at a cinema at the time. This was 2001. And this is my first real experience of anything production wise. She went to work on something as a student, and I was a student at the time as well. And she said, "Oh, would you like to come and work on this production? I'm a runner." And I was like, oh, I'm a huge TV and film fan, especially horror. And she said, "Oh yeah, it's this show called Band of Brothers." I was like, "Band of Brothers? Yeah, I've heard of that." And then I looked it up, and it was Tom Hanks Spielberg production. I was like, "Oh my god," because this is post Private Ryan, which I think was '98, and I just it was a missed opportunity because I had some sort of other work commitment thing, and that was you have those moments where you think, "Oh,
Alexander, I almost want to have another drink for you, buddy."
I know. Every time I speak to her online, every so often, I always see it as a positive thing. And she worked with, she ended up working in that show with the director that finished the Queen movie, Bohemian Rhapsody. And she was on set when Tom Hardy had his first performance as one of the soldiers, because I think it was his first real acting gig at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's gone on to do, and she works in some casting now anyway. So I was like, all right, okay, that's fine. But since then, I do a lot of kind of corporate stuff and behind the scenes stuff you produce that goes to a conference that no one sees, which is devastating. So I'm trying to make, I've written short films. I do a lot of coastal drone stuff. It's just trying to fit things in alongside my own work. Yeah, alongside work generally, and this is producing this festival has given me I found real focus in this pandemic, like real focus, because myself and my fiance moved into this house about a year ago, and there's so much to do, and the flooring's getting fitted next week and all of that. And alongside all of that, obviously I had anxiety working at home because I work as a video producer for a university as well as my own work. And that completely changed. I luckily stayed in my job, stayed in my role. But what did I do in my own spare time? I was just thinking the worst kinds of things about losing the house, or having no money, anything like that. And then as soon as I came up with this idea with a friend of mine at work, it kind of made that all disappeared. The anxiety disappeared. And speaking to fine people like yourself, it's been a really rewarding experience. So this is going to be something we're going to continue at least next year and the year beyond, at least in this podcast form, because it's been really rewarding. And the kind of emails we're getting back from people that are 9 years up to 90, for a 90
It's crazy.
a film, and they've said this has given us real focus. It's helped us in a time where we've, apart from school, they can't focus too well on reading or whatever. So it's been crazy, man. It's absolutely been crazy.
Well, kudos to you. That's amazing, Alexander. Like, sometimes you, like Steve Harvey says, you just got to jump and do it.
Oh, I love Steve Harvey.
I love him, man. Love that guy.
And in 2007, I worked on a feature film in London with Pierce Brosnan and Gerald Butler, and I met something.
Is Pierce Brosnan that good looking in real life?
I ended up meeting his production partner that started Irish Dreamtime with it. I didn't meet him, but I met Bruce Davey, who started Icon with Mel Gibson and a few other people that was working on it. I ended up insulting the writer of the feature film. So my first day, I was post-production assistant. I got a really nice credit on IMDb, which I'm very proud of. And she said to me, the assistant editor, "Oh, we should watch the film first. Let us know what you think of it." I was like, "Oh, Jesus." They've asked me to let them know what they think of it. Okay, I'll watch it. It was really good. It was a thriller. It's got one of the lead actresses from Coyote Ugly in it as well, the blonde girl. And I watched the film. I missed the last 15 minutes because I had another job to do. And I saw the writer. He had the cravat. He was kind of a proper English guy. And he said, "Oh, Alex, what did you think of the film?" At that point, I didn't know who he was. And I thought, "Oh, yeah, I know not to be an idiot, when you're on a set or in production."
Because you never know who's who.
Exactly, because this could be the golden goose for your next gig or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said to him, "Yeah, it was really good." And he read me like I've got a terrible poker face. I said, "It was really good. I've not seen the end, but I thought, it was really good." But he said, "Oh, bullshit." And then he stormed off. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. I'm gonna get fired. And then the assistant had said, "Oh, don't mind him. William's an extrovert." And then I watched the end. It's called in the US, it's called Shattered. In the UK, it's called Butterfly on a Wheel.
Okay.
It was a $30 million film, relatively small. You know what I mean? I know it sounds ridiculous. But when I watched the end, it was a really good twist and story. And then I spoke to William, the writer. It was his first feature film. He'd done British TV before that. And he said, "Oh, you've seen it now?" I said, "Yeah, I thought it was fantastic." "Oh, yeah, bullshit."
Yeah.
But then our relationship was really strong then. And then I ended up working on it for the rest of the post-production. But the thing is, that was almost 6 months. And no one else was doing that. Anyone that was brought in my position was there for a month. But because I had this really good relationship with a writer, and I was being completely genuine, because I don't, in that environment, I didn't want to be fake. I want to be, you're doing an important job at the time. And it was a really good learning experience. I met some incredible people.
It's amazing.
Yeah, like I heard, this is the best thing I heard was the guy that did the temp music was being, what was his name? Mike, I can't remember, it's Mike something. And he does a lot of on-set recording of audio for big shows and movies. And he was I think it was Mike Ingram. And he was on the phone with someone, and he put it on speakerphone. He says, "Listen to this." I said, "Oh yeah, he was big, thick American accent, older guy. We want to offer you the job on the Sweeney Todd. Tim's asked you to be on it and all of this." Like, Tim Burton. And then I said,
Tim Burton.
I said, "Who was that?" And he told, what was his name? It ended up being the producer of Jaws. He was one of the two producers of Jaws. Oh my God. And his dad was like the head of Fox years ago. I'm like, that, because Jaws is my favorite film, my head was like, that to me was better than meeting, you know what I mean, a famous sports star on my favorite team.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible moment. So yeah, since then, little bits here and there, but just trying to make shorts, that kind of thing.
Well, the way your luck has gone, I'm sure you're going to be somebody else that's going to help you out along the way. You keep running into the right people.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And it's being positive as well.
Well, that's how the universe works, right? The universe creates opportunity for people like yourself.
Yeah.
It's an accident.
Yeah. And, you know, it's for filmmakers myself, and there's another filmmaker, Ian Rayburn, who produced a film called Days. And if you've not already seen that, because it's on a couple of other festivals, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. His partner's an actress. So their balance together worked out fantastic. Now, I think this is something that it's Julia, isn't it?
Yeah, Jenny.
Jenny. So, yeah, I think you two can almost, I think going forward, produce content together. I really, truly believe that. Like the way she dropped the phone, that kind of thing, simple stuff that she did, and she had no acting experience.
She didn't even know what she was doing. She was just feeling.
Yeah, I think,
and that's what acting is. The objective of acting is not to be acting.
Yeah, absolutely, because it can show up so easily.
So easy. If you're not living that real moment, it's so easy.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to ask you, what was it like working on Designated Survivor?
So we did the scene where I played the FBI agent and Kiefer Sutherland was giving his speech because he became the new president now.
Yeah.
Right? So we're all there and shots are coming in from the window. So as the shots are coming in, I was head of security. I draw down. I'm like, get the president, get the president. So what happens is, because this is Kiefer Sutherland, a lot of the actors don't really want to rough him up. But we actually had a Secret Service guy with us on set, like actually who protected presidents over the years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like Designated Survivor is 1,000% professional and authentic. So you see Kiefer Sutherland in the scene, he's actually jumping to his family. Secret Service is supposed to catch him and save him. We don't care about the family. This is the president. So, but they were like kind of grabbing him like so nicely, like come with us. And I remember when in between one of the scenes we called cut, Kiefer Sutherland's like, yo, you guys are making me look bad because I'm acting. Just grab me. Don't worry. Grab me.
Because he's done all sorts of stunts, craziness with 24, you know, the legendary show with the Musketeers, Lost Boys, you know, the list is endless. So it must have been quite a surprise for him that they weren't doing that, you know what I mean, pushing it. Because otherwise...
Well, we all respect him so much and love him so much. Nobody wants to hurt him.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
And he was, so anyway, so after that, they literally, the Secret Service guys, they grabbed him like he was a rag doll. But when you looked at it on the playback, it literally went from here to like up here.
Right. Because it was like, we've got a green light now.
Right. So, and when I was talking to the Secret Service guys, like, they were like, this is actually what happens if by chance we don't want to hurt the president, but if we break an arm, but he's alive, it's okay because that can heal.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And they were awesome guys.
So what are the kind of lessons you learn? Is it obviously is it a constant learning curve in terms of, I think the next thing you kind of work on acting wise, you're going to absorb slightly different information based on the fact that you've just shot something as well.
Yeah, because I feel that it is so hard to bring your own life to work. It's one thing for you to write a script and for me to bring it to life. But it's different when you write your own and you looking at this and it's like, how do I bring this to life? And I kind of broke it down to somebody because somebody asked me a similar question. And I kind of broke it down like, you know what it's like? You know when you write a paragraph, a text message, and in your head it's like, oh, this is amazing. This paragraph makes sense. And then you go back and you read it out loud and you're like, whoa, what did I just say? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And it was a similar experience for me. When I was saying the words, it felt good. It felt authentic. But when I looked at the playback, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not living life here. This is not real. This is a man saying words. This isn't a man really fearing going into work. And for me, my responsibility level for self-tapes, for other people's work has increased because I have a responsibility to that writer, not only to do it and do it well and to give it justice, but you have to bring life to it.
100%, yeah.
And we as actors, we feel so much like, okay, we walked in the frame, can't do this, can't do that. That's not real. Like there's going to be times where I'm going to say, you know what, Alexander? No, screw you. You're wrong. And there's sometimes I can say like, no, honestly, Alexander, screw you. You're wrong.
Yeah.
And I've learned now, because I just did a self-tape last week, I don't care about the frame. I don't care about the mark. Where my body goes, my body will go. Where my voice goes, my voice goes. Where my life and living as this person goes, that's where I'm going to end up.
Absolutely. It honestly doesn't necessarily, it doesn't matter if your storytelling through acting and performance is on point, that's going to sell more than a well-composed shot. You know, obviously, if you look at a cinematography master like Roger Deakins, it's all well and good having great visuals, and he is one of the masters. But unless you've got an overall team where you've got great performances, great writing, it just kind of sinks really. Because you can have a really well shot terrible movie, and we've all seen them. I can't think of any right now, but you can absolutely see them, and they cost $100 million. You know, so I think
it's like what's his name? Oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? The first Batman with Christopher Nolan.
Dark Knight. No,
Dark Knight.
Batman Begins.
Yeah, who's the actor that played Batman? Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. Yeah.
So remember when he was doing Terminator Genocide?
And Salvation. It was Salvation.
Yeah, Salvation. And somebody walked in the light, and he snapped. He's like, "It's the second time."
Yeah.
Because maybe that was his best take, ruined by someone walking in the light. And I, at the time, I was like, "Oh, that's a little bit harsh." But now, doing my own work, I could trillion% get it.
Like, why is he even? What is he? I can't quite remember the context, but wasn't he walking or move? Because Bale makes a reference. Oh, you wouldn't want me to move one of your effing lights.
Yeah.
In his eye line or something. What's that kind of guy doing in that position?
Yeah.
Behind everyone else.
And they called action.
Yeah.
Just don't move.
It was as though they were trying to sabotage him. When I heard that, I was initially exactly the same as yourself. I was, oh wow, that's overly aggressive. But when you really know and what goes on and on a set and how things work, that was like, yeah, he's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Because just think of any of those shots. I think the film looks good. And I quite enjoyed Salvation, no matter what people think. It's entertaining. It's not necessarily, obviously, a classic, but every shot, you know from your experience, every shot is really well thought out and planned out and boarded if necessary, depending on who the director is. And yeah, why are you trying to sabotage someone's work? That's what it came across as though he was trying to sabotage Bale in that scene. It was a real weird, really odd scenario, you know.
You know, I didn't really realize it until I created my own work. You know, it's one thing when I go to set and I'm in a trailer and everything's there for me and I just got to go and everything's done. But when you do it yourself, and, you know, I want to also give a shout out. I'm sure a lot of these actors like myself, like when I created it and I submitted it, I didn't think I was going to get picked up. But there's such a big step of putting yourself out there that we take for granted. Like I really appreciate and I thank you so much for you commenting on my performance. But for me, I didn't even think it was as good as you felt it was because it's our own. But it took a lot for me to like, okay, I'm going to submit to this festival. And it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there because every time people judge you on it.
Absolutely. There's nothing worse than complaining and you haven't even attempted to create something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, give me this. The kind of people that think they're entitled to a chance. Well, you're entitled to a chance if you put the hard work in and the effort and you produce something. You don't necessarily have to produce something, but turn up, at least be seen, you know. And that's what I thought. And that's why I'm shooting more and more, because there's nothing worse than seeing someone else's work and complaining about that. I'm like, just make your own work. Stop complaining. Make it. And I think this is possibly, this is just a pure a pure thought at this point. I think for you, producing your own content now and having giving you this focus in this time, I think you'll end up. It's a great thing to have on your show reel and to kind of to send out. I think it's really solid. Because initially, when I first saw this, the very first time I saw this, I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that.
Right, because our time zones are different.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I had a phone call with Toronto in South Africa the other day, based on this kid's film, because the writer was in South Africa and he also edited it, which is crazy. So that was an actress called Tegan Sellers, and she was 9 years old. She came up with the idea in a dream, and it was for someone so young. And
It's incredible.
her mum said, "Oh, why don't we turn this into a film?" And they turned it into a film, and it was based on that. She's got this real impetus, not just to act, but to create. And that's the best thing to come out of this, I think, is that people are expanding their knowledge base, they're expanding their experience. I think, oh yeah, sorry. When I saw this at 2 a.m, I thought, oh, this is a TV advert for something. Like, not adverts are great. One of my lights just went out. Don't worry about that. I got this giant softbox anyway. When I saw it, it was like, oh wow, this is really high production value. This is great. Honestly, because that shot of you, it looked like something that was on a 50 grand camera. It was just, I think the lighting and everything, it just works so well. And obviously your performance sells it as well. It wasn't just, oh, that looks great. It all sounded great and everything as well. So more power to you. And I really hope I get to see more of your content and other people do as well.
And that's the goal, right? And I will see where it ends up. You know, my goal wasn't to create a festival. I mean, create a short to win a festival. My goal is create a short to prove to myself if I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I win, yes, great. I have it on my resume. If I don't win, yay, great. I won a personal victory.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm back in LA after all this is over and I'm meeting with those casting directors, if a conversation says, well, what else do you have? Oh, well, I submitted for a short film festival and this is what happened with it. This is what I have.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how I looked at it more than winning or losing. I had one person say that the performance that I did was like next to like anybody else had. It was great in their view. To me, like those things were all great, but I just wanted to give justice to the nurses.
Yeah, I think the story you were saying about, is it the nurse that works that lives in the same
My next door neighbor.
I think that was a really smart choice. I thought it was like, and was it 5 questions you asked her? I think it's an untapped resource, that in terms of the stories people have to tell. I think it was a completely refreshing change, the approach you made in terms of, oh no, I've got to go and do this. I have to do this. And this is my experience as your character had. And yeah, it was great because we've accepted diary entries as shorts. We've got animations, comedies, all sorts of things.
How many submissions do you have total?
So we started this festival 8 weeks ago, something like that, and we've got I think 105 now.
That's amazing
for such a fledgling. And there's 3 people involved. I produced most of the content, and I was co-founders. Chris, he helped. He was in there. You can see the other chap in the video.
Yeah.
And now we've got Nadia, a very good friend of mine from North Carolina. She's helping curate the content, and we're kind of judging it over the next couple of weeks or so. And we've got an exceptional judge for cinematography, by the way. And
okay.
Honestly, it blew my mind. That was based on having a few drinks late at night, sending him a message on Instagram, and then getting the reply. So I'll tell you about that in just a sec. So yeah, it's been crazy. We've got zero sponsors, no backers. But for next year, based on our judge and a couple of other people, we're going to try and get a bit more sponsorship and kind of elevate the whole production, but not lose the core values of it, of community and giving people a voice. I think that's super important. And that's what I found with doing this podcast is we've had people that are like 9 to 90, and we've interviewed them, the kids with their parents and the other parts of the the filmmaking team that made their film in their house. And it's been great, and it's given them a positive vibe. I've had messages from parents that said, "Oh, thank you so much for us being on the podcast, because it's given Tegan a nice boost." And I thought, that's worth all this effort and the small amount of money we've put in. Absolutely worth it, just for that one message.
And you, that little 9-year-old girl, she can blow up to be the next biggest thing, because, but let's remember where it starts from. It starts from you giving her an opportunity to create.
Yeah, and Nadia, who's based in North Carolina, she really kind of hit it home for me, when it's not necessarily about the films, it's about how the state of mind you're helping people get to. I thought, yeah, that's absolutely right, and we kind of gone away from anything flashy. We want to make it look nice anyway, but just reassure people that we're watching all of their films. We're not just going to put them all online and that's it, and thanks for sending them in. We want to make people feel as though we've had some sort of connection, and yeah, that's what we plan to do up until the day next year. It's going to be continuous, which is we're really happy with. And yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about this judge.
Okay.
So this is a Vance called Vance Burberry. He shot some of the biggest music videos ever, and he's a cinematographer and director, and he also teaches underwater cinematography. So he's an absolute great guy. And I started following him because he's a big fan of Blackmagic Design, the camera company from Australia, and he's Australian as well. He's based in LA, and I saw his feed about teaching the theory part of the scuba diving cinematography school. I thought, I'll send him a message. We follow each other, pleasantries and all that, messages. And I sent him a message about 2 a.m. I had a few drinks. Oh yeah, I really want to ask him, do you want to be a judge do you want to be on the podcast? And he said, yeah, sounds good. Just let me know the time. I'm 10 hours behind me or something like that, or 8 hours, whatever it was. And I looked at the messages the next day. All right, I'm going to speak to Vance tonight. 8. He shot Sweet Child of Mine, the Guns N' Roses video.
Yeah. Sweet Child, yeah.
Limp Bizkit, Alice Cooper, Britney Spears.
He's worked with the best of the best.
And he's great, and he's always on camera and everything. So he was telling me about production working with Guns N' Roses. He just shot the newest Garth Brooks video that's underwater. So when you see that, it's with Blake Shelton as well. And he shot all the underwater stuff. He's getting directed by Garth Brooks. And for anyone that watches this from the UK doesn't know Garth Brooks is, he's probably the biggest country music star in the world. And it was great. Vance was a top guy. He's had about 4.5 billion views on his content on YouTube. Because Sweet Child of Mine has 1 billion views. Yeah. So, and he was such a nice guy. We were having a chat just like this. And I said to him, I thought, right, I've got to ask him. Would you like to judge one of the awards on the festival? And he said, yeah, sounds great. Just let me know what you want. He's going to produce a video that we're going to send to the winner as well. And it's kind of blown my mind that he's just taken some time out to do that.
You know what, though? I also think I've never had this many people respond back to me as I've had during the pandemic, because everyone's looking for something to do.
Absolutely.
I've sent emails to huge agents in LA, and they're like, yeah, we'll get back to you, Deklon. I love your work.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the time. This is the time. Connections, massive. Communication's the biggest thing if you got great communication in any field, you can become a millionaire,
Always remember this quote, Alexander. Your network is your net worth.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So I just sent him that random message, and I looked at it thing, does it look like I've sent him drunken messages? Thanks for that. But he commented on...
He made on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we recorded a 45-minute podcast with him, and we talked about the festival. He worked on the restoration of Jaws. He worked on the restoration of 1931 Dracula.
This guy's huge.
I was like, what? So for me, when I see his cinematography stuff and his music videos, it was like, I was so happy. I was buzzing. I was kind of bouncing off the walls, because it really kind of elevated our work, and it made me think, yeah, it's worth sending those random messages sometimes and construct it in a way where it doesn't sound like spam, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he commented on yesterday's video. It's Vance Furbury or Vance 3210 or something. And so we're keeping him in the loop. And yeah, it's kind of a little bit of exciting news, isn't it?
No, that's amazing. How many categories are there for?
So at this point, when your podcast goes out, yeah, we can talk about that a little bit.
Wait, I don't want to.
It's
I'm not
fine.
a TMZ. I don't want to put you on the spot. Okay.
Oh my God, TMZ, yeah. Oh my God, yeah. There's going to be several.
Okay, you don't have to tell me what they are. That's fine.
There's definitely going to be obviously cinematography. I might actually twist it a little bit depending on. We're going to have a little kind of group think about it in terms of should Vance decide the best film, and we're scoring every film. We're really big fans of film and TV anyway, so we're going to enjoy the content. It's going to be on our TV in the living room and all of that, and so we're really going to give everyone a fair crack of the whip. You know what I mean? In terms of
course,
we're not just going to dismiss anything, and even if we like it or dislike it. But there are some outstanding things. Like I think your performance is super strong, man. I really do. And we've got an animation from a filmmaker called Rita Cruz. Now, I don't know where Rita's from, and it's this animation that looks like a painting. And I'll show you it in a sec. It's absolutely beautiful. And we've got really strong animation or stop animation category as well. So depending on the level of content, you know, if we had, say, at least 10 solid films or 10 films that really work, we're going to kind of award that. I think we're going to kind of find a right balance. And I think because we weren't aiming for a specific demographic or category this year, I think that we've got loads of comedy, some great horror, but do we have enough horror to award that? You know what I mean? Because we don't just want to give it to one single horror film. We want to make sure we've got a bank of them that we can put together. So we just want to do it the right way. And I think once we feel that out, that's what we're doing for the next week or so. And that's what those little announcements are about the last couple of days, is just giving it justice. We're not going to overproduce the show when we put it up on YouTube Live. And we're going to figure out a time zone. We're going to try and figure out
that's going to be a challenging part too.
Because we've got Australia, Israel, and New Zealand to think about as well. So.
Yeah.
So I think we'll end up doing it over 3 days, possibly 2. It's going to be difficult, but we want to do it right. You know what I mean? We want to give everyone their chance.
You know what? It's like the Olympics, though. If your country's playing, no matter what time, you're going to get up and support them. So you just got to think of it like that.
That's true, and that's very, very true. And it's not necessarily going to be the Oscars, but people in the UK watch the Oscars at 2, 3 in the morning. So that's a very good point, actually.
I actually think, the overall consensus is the strongest actors come from the UK.
After starting this festival, the pool of talent in Canada, because did you submit your film to the ISFF as well? The Toronto based.
Yeah.
The talent in Toronto and obviously wider Canada is huge. So my props to anyone watching. My props to Canada as a whole.
Thank you.
Because I'm like overwhelmed. The most amount of films has come from Canada for us.
Really?
Yeah. But when we've had little gems from Israel and Australia, it's just fantastic. We interviewed a couple from Israel the other day from Tel Aviv, and it was just so nice. It was there's common ground across the board. You know, like we've got common ground because I love a film, our appreciation of performance and making and the rest of it. It's really nice to kind of connect with those people. And yeah, like when I spoke to this chap from Australia about his short film, he was only like 18, something like that. His film was really strong. I'm like, have you made many films before? I'm like, not too many. It was just his 2 brothers and him talking about a girl that you don't quite know whether she's passed away or not. And I was like, this is a fantastic film. And it was just like, it's like sometimes they don't necessarily know how good they are. know what I mean? You can be super arrogant about your talent and that, but when his film is shown, I'll be like, yeah, check this guy out. He's fantastic.
Mhm.
So I think,
Yeah, you actually, I saw you did the interview with, I believe, another Canadian actress, Daniela or
yeah,
Danielle.
she's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was talking about she's a coastal part of Canada.
Yeah.
Where she's from, Alexander, the nicest Canadians in the world are from there. Like,
Yeah.
these are the nicest people ever. Like, I remember I went there for work one time, and as you're just walking down the street, everyone's just saying hi to you.
Yeah.
Like, I was taken back because you don't get that really in Toronto. Because in Toronto, we're all business. We got work to do. We got to go. And then you're in a place where it's like everyone's just waving to you for no reason. It's like, oh, and she was absolutely right. Coastal people, yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, it's like that in London. London's very much go to work, go to work, go to work.
Yeah.
If you're in the northern parts, like more Liverpool than Manchester, it's it's completely different. You've got such a short distance. Obviously, in the UK, there's not, size of the country is tiny, but you go to one part, you meet some absolutely fantastic people, and it's great. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet so many fantastic people. We're trying to interview as many of our filmmakers as possible. And I think, and I've had more and more people that have seen other podcasts, which is great. So and it's not about numbers for me. It's not about how many views there are, any clicks or anything like that. It's just about engagement. I think it's really nice to have people like yourself, man. It really is.
Yeah, and this is honestly like sometimes even talking back about how I created the film it's great because sometimes when it's done it's out of sight, out of mind. So kind of talking back kind of brings back those feelings and even those challenges. And even I remember how nervous I was when I was asking my neighbor, "Can I shoot a film off your life? Do you mind if I use you?"
Oh, so you actually asked her that as well?
Yeah. Because I can't ask her these questions that she doesn't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we were to win, I would definitely bring her on somehow, some way, because she's a big part of this because it's her life behind it.
Yeah,
And just to hear her when she's like, yeah, when I go to work, I'm paranoid because I don't know if I'm coming back home with something. And she has a new baby there.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? And she's like, you just get so paranoid. And her husband is actually a paramedic where he drives the ambulances. So she's a nurse, she's a paramedic.
Yeah.
It's both of them in the field, both of them risking their lives.
Yeah.
What does one tell the other? Well, don't go to work?
Absolutely.
So, and that's where that line comes from. I don't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a strong line. We had another filmmaker, Nalia, I think it's Peterson Williams. She was like, I think 12 years old. And her sister works in a hotel. I'm sure it's in Toronto, but they're based in Canada. And the hotel is being used for a homeless community, and she supports people that basically it's essentially a COVID hotel. So anyone that's had it in the homeless community. So she's going back and forth, and she has to obviously, you can imagine what you have to do. Take your clothes off, put it in the washing machine straight away. You can't go anywhere near because she's got a younger sister who's the star of the film. This girl I'm talking about, her mother that works in a youth correctional place, and the grandmother that lives at the house that's just had massive amounts of cancer treatment. So, and she was telling me her story, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to speak to her, because you made such a good point. It's you want to give a voice to these people because they're not really ever noticed in a lot of ways. They just go about their work because they're very business. They want to approach it the right way. And I think it was a really, did you kind of have the idea, I want to make a film about this person before you even kind of really spoke to her?
Yes. Yeah. Because I can't imagine what it must be like for these people to witness that much death. As much as I can't understand what it would be like to be the person who's dying and not be surrounded by my loved ones.
Yeah. I can't remember which part of my fiance's family is. But her mother, she couldn't go and see her when she was on her deathbed. She couldn't go and see her in her last few days because of COVID. And it's yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like, especially with your
Right?
own family.
Right? Like I don't know how it is in England, but or the UK. Like here, even when you die, there's only 5 to 10 people allowed at the funeral,
Yeah,
and we would do viewings and have a celebration of life. Like, and now like we have to pick and choose who can come, and we don't really put ourselves in those people's shoes. Like even like my neighbor is holding hands of somebody she's never met in her life and wants them to go peacefully.
Yeah.
Because she is the last person that they see. How do you not go to work?
Yeah, when it was I think it was the first week of lockdown or just before, when it was actually more prominent worldwide. I think it was like 8 weeks ago, something like that. My future father-in-law had a massive heart attack, and he's fine. He had triple heart bypass. But across the way from his ward, you could see they started making those single rooms, isolation wards, and the son couldn't go in at all. And it was that was the first moment when he really hit me, and then had this wave of imagine that happened to me, imagine that happened to my family. So yeah, there's a lot of incredible stories to tell, and I think you kind of capture that really well, man.
I hope so. I hope so, because it was something from the heart.
Yeah,
I was either going to do that. I was going to do a comedy of the other thing. I was going to do a comedy of how, for some reason, everyone's learning how to cut hair nowadays.
Yeah, I need a haircut. I really need a haircut. Yeah.
So I was going to do a comedy based off of someone's getting a haircut and they're watching the YouTube video. And,
that's a really good idea.
Right, because everyone is a barber now, good or bad, but everyone's learning how to cut hair.
Yeah, that's so true, man. Yeah. I kind of wanted to ask you about one of your other credits.
Sure.
Kim's Convenience.
Yes.
Because we love that show. I'm not sure how long you were working on it for, but it was.
I did not know it had such. I did 2 episodes on that one. 1 episode, 2 days of work. I did not know Kim's Convenience had that massive of a following. It is worldwide. I get calls from people all over the world like, hey, Deck, I just seen you on Kim's Convenience, because on Netflix now.
Yeah.
And people all over love Kim's Convenience.
Yeah, it's my partner's Indian, and her she got obviously her uncles run little corner shops, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of parallels with. Pardon my ignorance? It's a Korean family, isn't it?
Yes.
So there's a lot of parallels with this family and some of her family. So that's why it connected with us so well.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a joy, man. It's very cool that you were on that.
Alexander, if you ever get the chance to come up to Toronto, Toronto is this beautiful city of everything. Like this is one of the few places. I remember I was speaking to the producer of Madam C.J. Walker.
Oh, right.
So I had lunch with her in December, and she was telling me, she was like, I was choosing between Toronto or Atlanta to shoot Madam C.J. Walker. Well, they're LA based, so if you looked at the tax break, the exchange rate, it made more sense to come to Canada.
Yeah.
Right? She's like, when I was in Toronto, she's like, it's one of the few places in the world where I can get authentic food from any culture I want.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing of being engaged to an Indian family.
Yeah, you're eating well. You are eating well, yeah.
Yeah, like lunch today was like, oh yeah, I just threw this together yesterday. Oh my God, this is amazing.
But yeah, so Kim's Convenience is shot in downtown Toronto, and Angry Grandpa, he is an amazing human being.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we were on set with him, he sat down with all the actors, talked to us, gave us advice. Like, he didn't care if he had to shoot. Like, he would be like, hey guys, let's take a picture so you could put it on your Instagram. Like, you could tell that's an individual who climbed the ranks.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get where he's at. Like, he is, he's someone I would try and I try to be like when I get to that level of acting, 100%, giving back. He was amazing, amazing, amazing.
Okay, so I'm going to show you one or two of our films.
Okay, please, let's take a look.
These will be little sneak peeks.
So. Again, I'm not TMZ, everybody. This won't go anywhere.
So I'm going to show you Rita Cruz's animation. Okay, so where are we? Let's have a little look at that.
By the way, I was saying your hair looks really good, buddy. You're good.
No, it's all too wispy, and it looks. If you look to the back of it, there's like a micro comb over, so I need to get rid of it. I'm keeping the beard though. The beard's staying forever.
Yeah, keep that, buddy. Okay. Very Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Charlie Hunnam fan. I'm more Tom Hardy, you know, like better actor. That's just my opinion.
Tom doesn't say anything as Bane, and he's the most memorable person.
Exactly. A friend of mine shares scenes with him. He worked on Audi adverts and all sorts with Man United and Pepsi, and he used to do a lot of behind this, like, what do you call it, background acting, that kind of thing. And he's in a scene. He's technically in Tom Hardy's gang in Peaky Blinders. So he's got this clipboard. He was telling me about being on set with Tom Hardy when someone's messing about in the background. So kind of like the Christian Bale thing. And he was telling me about that. And he said that he's an absolute monster on set because his character's a monster. And offset, he's an absolute gent. He's got his dogs with him. He's got his, you know, his partner's there every so often. And he was telling me all of that. So, you know, I can totally understand Bale being so, going back to Bale, being so focused like that.
Yeah.
So,
hold on. You know what? Hold on here. Come here. This is Jenny, everybody. This is my beautiful co-star.
Hiya.
Ian.
You've had no acting experience.
Oh, hold on. There you go.
You've had no acting experience.
No acting experience whatsoever.
I said your experience was my self-tapes.
I read off his self-tape scripts.
You should definitely do more. You absolutely should be making more now with as a little duo, perhaps, you know, in terms of performance and short films. You've got to do it. You've got to do it.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Well, I had a lot of fun and I had some great direction from Deklon. So it was great to just kind of be free with it. I didn't have to memorize scripts, which I was so nervous about.
I can only imagine that is a skill in itself, is memorizing scripts.
Yes.
And
I
was saying to Deklon before that I asked him, what camera are you using to shoot the film? Because the shots, you know, the two shot of you two,
yes,
the shot of Deklon, when you look at the shot, it looks like a camera that's 50, 60 grand. That's what it looks like.
The funny thing is her camera.
It's actually my Canon camera that I bought years ago that I wanted to take up photography. And yeah, I've had it in a closet because I didn't.
That's amazing. You've got to take advantage of the light. So if you see really nice light, you got like a big window there that's hitting you now.
Yeah, we have a huge window. So in our apartment or flat here, one wall is just windows. So it's a lot of great lighting. Mm-hmm.
I've noticed how many amazing views there are from apartments in Toronto.
Oh yeah, we can show you.
Yeah, we can
show you. Oh, you can flip it?
Oh no, you can't.
Oh, we can flip it. Hold on.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that.
So down this way is the CN Tower. You won't be able to see it from the camera, but down that way is the CN Tower.
We can see the lake from here.
We can see the lake from here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's incredible. So were you nervous about making the film with Deklon?
No, I wasn't nervous at all. I was more excited than nervous. And I was so honored that he asked me to be a part of it because I know that he has a ton of friends who are in the industry. And now during this time, we can't. And so I was excited. I wasn't nervous at all, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, it's when I first saw it, I was saying to Deklon that I watched it about 2:00 in the morning because of so many time zones worldwide, we're getting films all times, you know, crazy times. And when I watched it, going, oh, this looks like a really well produced, like, advert for something like a really high end. That's what I initially thought when I saw it.
So actually, Alexander gave you a shout out on your ending scene when you find out. I don't want to say it, but what happens at the end and you drop the phone?
Well, it's funny because he was like, well, what if this really happened? And it came so easy. I was like, you know, I can easily tap into my emotions. I have no fear of that or being vulnerable to show that side. And so it was very real,
Yeah.
the feeling of that.
Yeah, because if you can tap into that, you know, there's certain emotions or things that could set you off, that you could go to a really dark place, and you can, if you can harness that, you should definitely be acting.
Oh, she can harness it like she can start crying right now for you, Alexander. Like, and your haircut.
Yeah, I need a haircut. Yeah,
I'm liking the beard. I'm liking the beard.
Yeah, I'm going for a bit of a Moses. That's my look.
Yeah, it's very biblical.
Yeah, I've got this whole. I feel like, because I'm working in this tiny space at the moment, I feel like I'm going through this late Marlon Brando phase of just being a slob. You know what I mean? But there's so much kind of mental fatigue going on, because it must be the same for you guys as well, that when you're locked down in your place, were you initially allowed to go out at all? Obviously only for shopping, or what was it like?
Yeah, only essentials.
Essentials. They were highly encouraging to stay home, and only for like groceries or things like that of that nature. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but you know what? We took advantage of the time. Like, we had set up meetings with bankers virtually. I reached out to a lot of different casting agents. I would be on people's live, and I remember I saw Casting Diva, that was her name, and her name's Yolanda, and she's a casting agent in New York. Screenshot it, took her name, private messaged her, and I was just like, hey, would you like to take a look at some of my self-tapes? Tell me where I can improve.
Amazing. That's it. That's the focus. You've got that drive and focus, which is to be admired. And based on that, I'm going to show you this little film called.
Okay.
I need to find. It's called Title Sequence at the moment, because I don't know what the title is.
No problem. No problem.
So let me screen share that. Screen one. Share the sound. So this might be a little bit laggy.
Okay.
So just bear that in mind.
You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.
So
Wow. That speaks to everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm going to do when I interview Rita on the 11th of June. My God, June! It's June already.
That's already June. It's actually, June 1st.
Absolutely, yeah. So when I interview Rita, because I wanted to speak to her about this animation, I'm going to show her your film, and that's what we're doing with a lot of the filmmakers. We're showing them other films in the festival. So that's the kind of thing you're part of now.
Well, this is amazing. And again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to work together, and for me to create and write and tap into something I didn't even know I had an ability to do.
Yeah, I expect both of you to have an IMDb profile now.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's the plan. And so it's funny because we've had to do some commercial auditions up here in Canada. We're still doing some smaller scale stuff, but it's like what they've done is they're giving us a location fee.
Okay.
So we had to shoot a commercial, and I was talking to my commercial agent yesterday because they ask you, do you live in a condo? Do you have a balcony? Are we allowed to shoot in your place with a certain amount of people? And do you have a partner who's willing to work? So if we get it, she actually has to get an actor's permit.
Hey,
she would get an IMDb. Yeah.
You'll absolutely smash that. I think there's tons of potential for you here. I think that you should definitely tap into that. I think it's a great partnership, creativity as well. Have you kind of done anything like this together before at all?
No, the only thing we've done together is sort of a mess.
If it's Instagram stories.
Or our wedding. Our wedding was like a movie.
Oh, we did a little short, funny reenactment skit
of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh, right.
It was a therapy session.
You should send it to him too. It's kind of fun. You know, and I will say, a lot of my friends and family, they said that I outshone.
She did. She got me. Don't touch me, though.
That's amazing. I think that's a great place to part ways there, Deklon. And thank you both so much for being on board. And we'll we'll be releasing updates every day. And there's tons of admin to do at the moment, so we've got to get on top.
Oh yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah, I'm sorry this call went so long.
No, I'm very happy. I'm really happy that we kind of touched upon very important things at the beginning, and then the film, and pleasantly surprised because this is going to be an example. I'm going to post screenshots. I'm going to kind of market every film throughout the year. So when the festival ends in a few weeks' time, no matter what date that is, throughout the year we're going to release these podcasts as well. We're going to market every film. We're going to tell little stories about the production of every film. So for your film, it's going to be like, yeah, this was shot on it's Canon camera. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And obviously talk about your performances as well, which are really strong. So yeah, thank you so much for both being on.
Alexander, thank you so much, and go enjoy that lunch, and don't worry, the beer looks sharp, buddy.
Absolutely. You have a good evening, or the rest of your day, whatever time it is. Yeah, so it's about 1:30.
Yeah, it's 1:30.
Yes, thank you.
I'll have a great day anyway.
Thank you. All the best.
See you soon.
Be safe.
Bye. Bye.
Okay,
You too.
bye.
Bye.